Da 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 da. You know what you could do, Aaron? What you could do is you could make an enticing weird sound at the start of the podcast to draw your listeners in, capture their attention. They're listening to this. Why should they listen to this? Why should they listen to you and your podcast? Well, I'll tell you. The Outgrown Podcast is only your one-stop shop for all things grown and out, and sometimes outgrown. It's been a while since the last episode, but today's episode is your favorite type of podcast, a PCast. So sit back, relax, or, go to work or go to school or whatever you're doing while doing this podcast and enjoy. Hit the music, please.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
Hello, and welcome to the Outgrown Podcast. It's been a while, hasn't it? Oh, man. I took a break a few weeks ago to go to the old Guildcast. Obviously, it's been a while since talking, obviously. I took a break to go to the Gold Coast a few weeks ago, and when I came back, I decided I needed also a visit to the hospital. So that was fun. So it's been I've been off a few weeks. Gold Coast was very, very enjoyable. As holidays go. You've had them, so you understand when you're not working. And then when I came home, I had a vacation from reality, and then reality decided to vacation inside me. I had some health scare, so I had to go to the old hospital, but everything is fine-ish, but just not as severe as I was worried about. So that's all good. So it's made me, after that kind of scare, after, thinking and worrying about the worst, you tend to get in a bit of a dark state, and I was certainly in Darkland, wherever that is. But I want to have fun, what makes me laugh? I'm grateful now. I'm alive. Here we go, live a life. Woo! I have been thinking about doing a new impression. I should just do it instead of saying I'm thinking about doing it and then just doing it, because then the thinking part is kind of irrelevant. It's Paul McCartney, all right? It's only because I listened to a podcast with Conan O'Brien's podcast, and he was talking to Dana Carvey, and Dana Carvey does an impression of Paul McCartney, and it made me just, want to do a little bit of Paul McCartney. He's just from Liverpool, and he's just, working with old John all the time, you just got to play the music, I haven't really practiced Paul that much, but that's the vibe I'm going for. He's just a little bit, aloof, me and John, Ringo, we were just... So I don't always do full-on, conversations of a different person, different character. I like to, just do little ones, little small impressions that are like bite-sized, So I'll give you one now. You can guess who this is. Wow. I got some people at work who do that incessantly, and now I can't hear "wow" in any other way than Owen Wilson would want us to. The Gold Coast, that was quite a vacation of sorts, not just because of, how vacations go, but I had an experience that I wanted to talk about. So basically, Pip and I were walking down the street, and we came across one of those guys that kind of, sell you things, like, hey, you want cheap tickets to do this? Hey, you wanna go on a pub crawl, a cheap pub crawl? And on Gold Coast, they're all over the place, these salespeople. But there's one guy, he just got us. And I think at the time, Pip and I were also, kind of considering going out for the old drinks anyway. So we were like, let's listen to what this guy has to say. But didn't help that he started off, or maybe it actually helped him in the end, because then I did engage. He basically saw us coming towards him and was like, oh, g'day, mate. You guys are you and your missus are looking to go out tonight. And it caught my attention immediately. I was like, don't say missus. Just don't use that term. And he was so confused. He was like, what do you mean? I'm like, you don't need to use missus. It's so proprietary. And he was like, what does that mean? I was like, proprietary. It sounds like I own her. It's like, hi, you've addressed me, and then you've just saying, oh, and your missus, like your thing. It's like, I don't know. And then he was like, oh, and it's an Australian slang. And I'm like, no, I get that. It doesn't make it okay. I was like, and he was like, oh, he was like, oh, it's Australian slang. Everyone says. I'm like, no, it's still weird and like just implies ownership, And he was like, oh, we say things like the other half and all that. I'm like, yeah, the other half of a whole, two equal halves. What is equal about saying, hey, man, and his thing? It's so ridiculous. So that bugged me, and I couldn't help myself, and I made it instantly awkward. But I regret nothing, because by the end of the conversation, he was like, you know what, I'm not going to use missus anymore. And I'm like, yeah, neither should you. But also, that's not true. You're just ending the sale with, making me feel better about you not being a piece of shit. Disclaimer, Outgrown Podcast says, quote, don't fucking use missus. Maybe let's not be assholes, and maybe together someday we can give each other more shit. Okay, cool. Enough of that. The rest of the vacation was fine. There wasn't really any other confrontation. Obviously, the confrontation of coming home was the real part, wasn't it? Yeah, just came home and I felt all numb and tingly on the side of my face. I won't get too into the nitty-gritty of it all, but basically what happened was I had to have an MRI. And the MRI was an experience I have never had before. You see it in TV shows and you see it in movies and stuff, but you don't really get an understanding of what an MRI actually is until you're actually inside of the robot's anus. And it's making all these sounds at you, and it sounds like a rave party, but and I was thinking about this when I was in the I was going to say REM machine. The MRI machine, and I was lying inside there, and it sounded like the only way that I could make sense of it, and it makes sense to me, was it sounds like the build-up of every EDM song, or drum and bass. They're all the same to me, club songs, and it was just, it sounded, I'll do an impression. I wasn't expecting on doing an impression of a machine, but here we go. Because I can give you David, I can give you some Christopher Walken, but I know what you really want. You want some MRI machine, don't you? Oh, here it comes. All right, here we go. This is an MRI. This is an amazing podcast. I'm literally just banging a water bottle on my desk for your, quote, entertainment, close quote. Moving on. So anyway, I was inside the robot's anus, and a lot of banging was going on. And not the banging that I was hoping for. And you know what? It was fine. It was, you just kind of lie there. They had to put this contrast liquid in it. That's what they call it anyway, an MRI contrast. And they inject it into you. And I just remember lying there, and I just started feeling like a cold, staticky feeling running down my arm. And I was like, oh, it's going inside me now. Because the technician was like, it's going to start going in halfway. It's without really any signal. I'm like, oh, good. That's not disconcerting whatsoever to just have some cold, staticky liquid run through my arm at a time that I'm not sure about. Cool. Awesome. That makes me feel so much better. But yeah, I got the results from it today. And I'm good. good-ish. I'm good-ish. I am fine for now, and which is good news. I am fine. But, this whole experience has been really stressful. Definitely one of the most stressful experiences of my life as medical things go, It's just classic doctors like giving you different answers and giving you misdiagnoses. And, there was this one time the first time I was in the hospital, the doctor was like, I asked one of the doctors, I was like, is this because of an infection? She was like, yeah, it could be. I'm like, oh, okay. And then we asked another doctor that came in separately. I was like, we asked the same question. I was like, is this because of an infection? They're like, no. An infection wouldn't do this. I'm like, okay, good. Well, I'm glad you guys have got a really good communication between you two, and you're really making your patient feel good. So thank you for that. But, it's classic medical drama. But, they do such an amazing job there. Like, God, you get such a profound fear and respect for them all when you're in that hospital, don't you? It all just smells the same. And you see all these people just running about. Oh, I did make one observation that made me laugh before I move on. I saw this one nurse, and she was in, like, different colored scrubs. She was in red scrubs. I don't know anything about medicinal scrubs. That sounds like that's a great band name, Medicinal Scrubs. But she was in different medicinal scrubs. Sound like a weed strain. She was in red scrubs, right? And she was just walking around like she had her whole life figured out. And like, I'm sure she has, she looked confident, but it just seemed like from the way that the other doctors were interacting with her that they didn't like her. She was just walking around and she was really confident and sure of herself. And I was like, yeah, go you. But then I just saw like a bunch of her colleagues just like really borderline deal with her. When you see like small talk in the office and you know that those two just tolerate each other. And that's kind of it. Like they get by, but there's no real chemistry or real friendship in there. She was like that with everyone. And I was just laughing. I was like, you must be good at your job. I hope you're good at your job anyway, because obviously your social life here is not exactly impeccable. But anyway, I digress. This week has been crazy, but man, it really gives you a newfound appreciation for the people around you, doesn't it? For your friends and your family. And I've got some pretty wonderful people in my life. And gosh, I just feel so supported, so loved, so wonderful. So thank you to everyone who was there for me throughout the whole thing. You guys are just awesome. Lately, I've been feeling weird about bakeries. Segue. I've been feeling weird about bakeries. I've had, this kind of like chest pain for a while, and it's very disconcerting. And I think, like anyone, it's scary when you hear things going on in your chest. You make very big rushes to conclusions. WebMD doesn't really help, but you get in there and paranoia takes over. I feel weird about bakeries because I usually like smelling them. They're nice. You walk past, you smell it. Even when it's burnt-ish, you're like, oh, it smells like burnt toast. That's fine. It's kind of nice. But lately, when I walk past the bakeries, I don't have the same appreciation as I used to. I used to walk past and just love the smell of bakeries. Now I don't know if I'm hungry for toast or if I'm about to have a heart attack. The whole, burning the burnt toast thing. You hear, apparently if you smell burnt toast, you're like, oh, that's a sign of a heart attack or whatever. It's like, well, okay. But what if it's just a bakery that's just made an error? Now you're just freaking out the public. You're freaking out me. Damn, Madison, you scary. I've missed this podcast. It's always so fun to do. It always feels like I'm just having a long conversation with myself that I share with my friends and my family. It's just fun. I get to share it with all you guys. I always appreciate your feedback. I've been getting some really good feedback lately from you guys. Some negatives and some positives. Some those good old positive negatives and those positive positives. It's always good to hear about the things I can do better on and the things that I'm already doing good at. It's so satisfying. Now the podcast is on, the old Spotify and Apple Podcast. It's pretty cool. I feel legit now. Look at me go, being all legit. Why did I go to ye old Gold Coast? One could say I needed a break from work, but to be honest with you, it fell on a public holiday, and I wanted a break from sports. Yeah, the AFL Grand Final was going on in Melbourne, and there was a public holiday for it for some reason. I don't really know why. Not really sure about that. I haven't seen many other public holidays being established for any other kind of cultural event like that. Seems kind of strange. I mean, other than, colonialism, we like to celebrate that for some reason. But yeah, the grand final, it was going on in Melbourne, and I kind of just didn't want to be around for it. The public transport's difficult. People are difficult. Men are especially difficult, especially when you combine alcohol. And I just wanted to get away with it. Get away from it, I grew up loving sport. I played a lot of sport, and I loved the All Blacks, and I went to the World Cup games when I was in New Zealand. And, after a few years of, growing up and, realizing that Santa isn't real and God isn't real and, it's fine, maybe I've just lost a disbelief in sport. I don't know. But it's just, I just see a lot of toxicity with it, and it kind of just seems more effort than it's worth. Like if you go on, like in the UK, like they separate their supporters from each other. There's a rule where a football player, he can't celebrate his goal at an opposition supporters because they'll fucking kill him. They'll throw bottles at him. And if you watch a game, there's like fences around the field, and it's just savagery, honestly. And then they split the supporters up in the stands and in the pubs outside of the stadiums themselves. You walk into a bar, and if it's not your team, you're probably gonna die. That's insane. That's absurd. Like, where is that remotely okay in society? But for some reason, when it comes to sport and competitiveness, we're just like, yeah, it's just part of the game. Yeah, it's just part of the indifference that we like to enjoy together, don't we? I think I've kind of got a newfound appreciation for sport in like more of a observational, I'll laugh at you type of way. I was out with a couple of friends, and we randomly started having a conversation with this old couple, and they were like in their 40s, and they were having a break from their kids, and they came out to have a few drinks and have a good time, and they were a bit juiced up, if you know what I mean. They were a bit sloshied. And we got talking about sports because, obviously I didn't start it, but they did. And he looked at me, and, the friends I was with was two girls. Why is that important? I'll tell you. Because he looked at me and was like, oh, what sports team do you follow? And I was like, well, you are preaching to the wrong choir. You automatically thought that, hey, here's a man. He's got like sports over there, doesn't he? He's like, what team do you support? And this was when the AFL was going on. I was like, what team do you support? I was like, oh, I don't like sports. I don't really do the whole sport thing, actually. And he was very confused, to be honest with you. But then he turned to another one of my friends, and he asked her, oh, what team do you support? And she was like, oh, Richmond. And he was like, oh. Why would you support Richmond? You know how it goes when there's always that one person where it's like when they hear someone else supports a different team than theirs, it's like a personal attack on them and their family. It's like, oh man, how could you? Why would you do such a thing? Why would you do that? And it was just so crazy. I was just sitting there watching this guy in his 40s talk to this 20-year-old, in her late 20-year-old girl talking about her sports team and how they just like this her group of humans were just different from his group of humans that he has somehow taken ownership of. Like, when you take everything away, when you simplify everything, and, it's taken billions and billions of years for us to even get to this point now where you're able to listen to this podcast on your phone. That's crazy. Like, I know there's people listening to this who didn't have this type of technology, but the fact that you can listen to this podcast and you can do so much in this world, and you can go to a sports game and you can wear the shirt of another man, and you can scream at him and his mates while they run up a grassy field with an inflated rubber egg, and you can shout and feel like you're part of it. And I get why it's personal to people. Like, it's like the competitiveness is it's so integral to who we are as human beings. Like, competitiveness is just how we operate. We love, these structures and groups and categories and labels and, seeing the winner of something. Like, we love games. It makes sense. And like, I'm not trying to bash on people who like sports. It's just weird and absurd and funny to me. And now I'm reflecting back on all the times I used to be into like rugby and cricket and all that. I think the active physicality of it is something to be said. I think it's the fanaticism around sports I just don't understand. It just seems there's a very fine line. It's kind of like patriotism, for example, right? I think there's a very fine line between like patriotism and like nationalism. It's like, my group is better than your group, isn't it, Pip? Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Pardon?
That's right. And my team is better than your team. My country is better than your country because of these reasons. Right? Hello, Pip. Welcome. Welcome home. And it just seems crazy to me that, you go to these games and you watch grown adults yell at each other and feeling like they're part of it. It's so funny. Like, it's almost like when you see people at like fathers at their kids' games, and they're way too involved. Like, way too involved. They're screaming. They're like, Brian, if you don't do this, I will kill myself. It's like, oh my God. It's good you're not putting too much pressure on your son. It's good to see. It's just weird to me. And, alcohol, men, and sport, yeah, those three don't mix very well. There's just too much of each thing. I was thinking about, to level out the competition, we could do maybe a range of PSAs, some public service announcements, and put them on the radio. You could put them on the television, and just make sure the general public know that they just remember the most fundamental part of all of this. It's just a game, okay? It's just a game. It could be like this. It'd be like, hi, do you watch sport and follow a sports team that your dad or granddad told you to follow? Hi, my name is Aaron, and I'm here to tell you about overcompensating. Man acting out and copying others for their father or peers' approval is a common symptom of being a basic ass bro. Don't be a basic bro. Do what you want to do. Don't follow the crowd. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. So yeah, just chill out, guys. Just chill out on about your sport. It's fine. It's fine. I guess maybe that's my fine. That's the title of the episode. It's fine. It's fine. But anyway, I'm grateful for the Gold Coast because I didn't have to deal with all of that, and it was fine. Trump is in the news for a change. He's never in the news, is he? Man, everything going on right now with Ukraine and the impeachment, it's pretty insane. It's a lot going on. And, I want to say something about Trump, And I know that some of you listening to this are probably like, okay, stop podcast, delete. I know more of it. It's tiring and it's exhausting. I get it. I don't want to get too political, but I will say this. Doesn't all of this feel like we're stuck in the most unsatisfying episode of like CSI Miami? And it's on repeat every day. And it's just always on, kind of like Seinfeld or Friends. It's just always on repeat every single day. You turn it on, it's just there. You're like, oh, God, again? Gosh. It always feels like we're the end of the CSI episode. We all know who the killer is. And we're just waiting for the detectives to be like, all right, we got him. We got his fingerprints, tapes, witnesses, motive. Yeah, he said it on live television. Let's be honest. He admitted to it on live television, and his lawyer is now also admitting it. So, I mean, I think this is pretty clear-cut stuff. I mean, the evidence is all here. What do we do now, detective? What do we do now? Yeah, what do we do now? Nothing. No, we don't do anything. And Finn, credits roll. Same again tomorrow, guys. Sounds good. That's a wrap. Same time, same treason tomorrow. Yeah! Before I wrap this up, because this is a PCast after all, and a full episode will be coming at you next week, which is super exciting. It's going to be about failure. Yeah, how about that? I'll have a different approach to it. It'll be interesting, and I'm going to talk about how I've failed, which I have a lot. It's going to be good times. It's going to be very enjoyable. But last episode was about escapism, and that episode was really interesting because not only was it the first audio episode, so I had to go through a few lessons on that guy too, but there was a lot of research that went into that guy. You know, talking, like, really digging into escapism and tying some concepts together. It was really interesting to me. Like, you know, because when you're doing, you know, this podcast, like, ultimately I want to make you laugh and I want to, you know, entertain you. But at the same time, I also want to talk about, you know, topics that I find interesting. And the topic of escapism was particularly interesting to me. But I'm not going to just do a general episode on escapism. You can just go on YouTube or you could go to TED Talks and look at those things. And I did. And a lot of them were quite boring. And I wanted to have a bit of a more interesting breakdown of the topic. And I found it quite interesting, you know, exploring it in fiction and the way that we reflect on the fiction itself. So, you know, when you think about Harry Potter and you think about your Arnies, and you think about all these heroes that we love and embrace and we fictionalize, we often tend to forget that, you know, we're the heroes of our own story. And then bringing in the ideas around the hero's journey. If you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's work, I highly encourage getting into that guy. And also just talking about how your reality can be numbed from escapism, and whether it's drugs or alcohol or sex or gambling or, you know, watching a lot of films or binging on Netflix or playing lots of video games. Like, all of that's fine. But if you're numbing it, then it kind of takes away the value of that enjoyment. Like, it's more like you're, you know, just numbing yourself rather than enjoying yourself. So, and then the third part of the whole escapism episode was talking about following your bliss. And that was a really interesting kind of topic to explore as well, because that was also within Joseph Campbell's hero's journey work as well. So there was a lot of things coming together, talking about the suspension of disbelief and how we numb or suspend our perception of what's logical and real for the sake of enjoying a horror movie. You know, you're not going to say, "Oh, this isn't scary. Fuck that. That's not real blood." No, you're not going to do that. You're going to want to be scared because that's the best way to enjoy it. Just to connect all these ideas together. I found it really interesting, and I think I got a lot out of it. I hope you did too. If you haven't listened to it, I highly encourage you to go back and listen to that guy. You know, when I first started doing the episode, it was, you know, just talking about escapism itself and the topic, and I was doing lots of research into it. But as I kind of explored the topic itself, I realized that I wanted to bring a bit more of a unique take on it and to draw some connections to other things that help to explain escapism in a bit more of an in-depth way. Next episode, as I said, will be about failure. And it has also been overdone. So I'm trying to think about doing it in a very different way. So, the best way I can think about doing it in a way that hasn't been done before is by really digging deep into everything that I have failed horrendously at. I have a lot of experience with failure, so I can definitely shed some fucking light on that guy. I'm also exciting news before I wrap up this podcast is I am looking into having some conversations. That's right. I will be having some guests in the future, so it won't be just little old me rambling on. No, I will be talking to a lot of different people, creative people from all walks of life. So visual effects, graphic design, even people who aren't necessarily in what is perceived as a creative field. It's all about talking about the growth. It's all about creativity, mental health, and figuring out how we know we are doing what's right for us. So super excited to start having some more conversations with other people. So look forward to some of those episodes. I'll keep you guys updated when I know more about those episodes coming out. But until next week, I bid you a fond farewell, and I will leave you with some positive affirmations from David. This isn't David, this is his friend introducing David. Hello, David, can you please sign us out, please? I'm sorry about Brian, he's a bit of a nutter. Thank you for listening to Outgrown Podcast with Aaron Douglae. Might I say, he is quite a fine individual, and his health is quite good. Look at him surviving through the scare of the hospital. I don't know what voice this is anymore. But anyway, thanks, David. Thanks, Brian. And thank you for listening. It's been wonderful to be back on this podcast. Wonderful to be back talking to you, even though I don't talk to you. I wish I could talk to you. This could be a great back and forth opportunity, and here I am rambling again, and I'm not stopping, and I don't know how to stop, and I should learn how to stop, but I don't learn. Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and an even better week ahead, and I will see you in the next episode.
It's so important to consider this question. What do I desire? Desire.